welcome to the United Community Channel. Welcome back to another morning news show, and we've got a lot to discuss this morning, guys. It's been a big morning on the striker front for Manchester United. The Mirror have reported that United are back in pole position to sign Victor Gyokeres, so we're going to talk a little bit about that, and we're going to talk about the reaction that some of the fan base are having in relation to United moving for him again. We've also got updates, guys, on Rasmus Højlund. Manchester United have been offered a striker swap by Inter Milan, and they've kindly turned it down. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. And we've also got updates from Fabrizio Romano, guys, on Brian Mbeumo and when his deal to Manchester United is likely to go through. As always, please do smash a like on the video. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. If you're listening back on Spotify, please do give us a 5-star review. Hit that follow button as well. But we're going to jump straight into it, guys. And we're going to talk, of course, about Victor Osimhen. We're not going to talk about Victor Osimhen at all. We're going to talk about Victor Gyokeres. The Daily Mirror this morning have reported that Manchester United are back in pole position to sign Victor Gyokeres. He's ready to reunite with his former manager, Ruben Amorim. And look, I've said this on multiple occasions that I never thought Manchester United were really out of the race. Now, we can get into why this is the case and, you know, maybe a little bit of naivety from Victor Gyokeres' camp in relation to pushing for a move to Arsenal. But I don't think he was ever turning down the opportunity to sign for Manchester United. I think from minute one, it was quite clear that he wanted to play European football. Manchester United, of course, can't offer that. Now, I think an awful lot of this is going to depend on the Benjamin Sesko fiasco, and are Arsenal going to move for him? We said a few weeks ago that obviously we know that Mikel Arteta is a big fan of Benjamin Sesko. I think they tried to sign him last January, or at least inquired about him, and I think that's probably what's driving the whole striker search, not just with United, but maybe throughout an awful lot of clubs in England. I think if Arsenal pull the trigger on Benjamin Sesko, I think United move for Gyokeres instantly. I genuinely think that. And you know, maybe these reports coming out are suggesting that Gyokeres and his camp understand that maybe Arsenal are not... maybe he's not favourite to sign for Arsenal and that they're going to go for Benjamin Sesko instead. But look, I mean, their losses are gain, in my opinion. I think absolutely we could, you know, get a deal done quickly. Now, there has been some maybe murmurings over the last couple of days that Liverpool are potentially going to look at Victor Gyokeres as well. And look, I do think there obviously is going to be competition there if Arsenal don't sign him. Again, there's a lot of reports with Liverpool and Isak as well. Again, I mean, Gyokeres would be a hell of a lot cheaper. But look, let's focus on Gyokeres to Manchester United for a moment. I think a lot of the fan base have been a little bit negative towards him, turning back towards Manchester United. I don't think he ever turned away from United, if that's what we're getting at here. I think he wanted to see more than anything else what Arsenal's deal was and what Arsenal's maybe preference was before he committed to anywhere else. I think he probably did say to Arsenal, look, you can offer me Champions League football, you're challenging for league titles, fantastic. I'm obviously going to maybe prioritise ye first to see what you want. And obviously it looks like Arsenal have gone in a different direction. Not 100%, because there still could be twists and turns to this. But who cares? If Victor Gyokeres signs for Manchester United, I will be absolutely over the moon. He's the player that I wanted. He's the striker that I wanted out of all of the available strikers this summer. Osimhen, Gyokeres, Sesko, Ekitike, Delap, all of these, I wanted Gyokeres more than any of them. I said it as far back as February or March, I think, that it just felt right. I could see him wearing a Manchester United shirt, scoring at the Stretford End. He's the type of striker that historically has done well at United. That out-and-out number 9, you know, you can go all the way back to, the Yorks, the Coles, the Van Nistelrooys. And even in more recent times, the Cavani's and the Ibrahimoviches, them out-and-out number 9s have always done well at Manchester United. And I think he could fall into that category. And the fact that these reports, and the Mirror, in fairness, in relation to Manchester United over the past couple of years, maybe ever since Eric Ten Hag took over, they've got an awful lot right. So Victor Gyokeres to Manchester United, I mean, I don't think has ever gone away, but I think when we're hearing these reports now, it certainly does bolster the opportunity to go out and sign him. Now, we also know that there is going to be the standoff maybe between him and the club. Sporting, Lisbon that, there was a gentleman's agreement that he could go for 60 million. They want more now, given how good he is and so on and so forth. So there is going to be a lot of negotiations required. But I think the fact that Ruben Amorim is there, the connection is there, he would be coming in, he's going to be playing the same system, and a system that he's thrived in Portugal only, last year under Ruben Amorim, I think is absolutely positive. So look, Gyokeres to Manchester United, I'm all for, and I think some of the negativity that's coming, he wanted Arsenal, now he wants us because Arsenal are not there. Who cares? If he's scoring goals in the Stretford end and he's putting up half the numbers that he's been putting up in Portugal, Manchester United fans will be okay with it. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Now guys, next up in relation to strikers, and obviously we're looking at inbound strikers an awful lot this summer, but let's talk a little bit about Rasmus Højlund and a potential outgoing that he is. And Graham Bailey has reported this morning in relation to negotiations between Inter Milan and Manchester United in relation to Rasmus Højlund. And it's an interesting one, and one that obviously we haven't heard of so far, but during discussions between Manchester United and Inter Milan, United were offered a chance to sign Mehdi Taremi. Taremi was thrown into the mix by intermediaries acting on behalf of Inter Milan, with the Italian side keen to sell the Iran international. United's response was politely to decline the chance to sign him. A striker the club has no intention of signing. The club's stance on Rasmus Højlund remains unaltered. United want a full sale this summer, uninterested in swap proposals. And it's the first time we've heard anybody really gone in as hard as this in relation to Rasmus Højlund moving away from Manchester United on a permanent basis. And look, we've all made our points clear on Rasmus Højlund. It hasn't worked out. He hasn't been good enough in the 2 seasons that he's played for Manchester United. However, I will reiterate the fact that I've said an awful lot about him, and that is, I do think there is a potential player there, and I do think if he hadn't have had the kind of pressure that was put upon him by being Manchester United's out-and-out number 9 on his own with no real backup, I think he probably would have progressed a lot better. Now, we're talking about bringing in a Gyokeres or an Osimhen or whoever the case may be, an out-and-out number 9 that's going to lead the line for Manchester United. Who's the backup? And that's, that's a very honest and open question to ask. Who is the backup going to be? Are you going to have Chido Obi as a 17-year-old backup to a Gyokeres? Okay. Or are you going to have to go back into the transfer market to sign a second striker? Again, look, I would like to see Rasmus Højlund play as a second striker, as a backup option for a season at Manchester United, just to see how his development goes. Now, it may go the same way, and he may turn out to be no better this time next year. But I'm curious to see if you bring a Gyokeres in and you take the pressure off of Højlund, because you could see with Højlund last season the immense pressure that was on his back, and it did weigh him down a little bit. It really, really did. I think if Gyokeres was to come in as our number 1 striker and Højlund was playing off the bench, or he was, starting 1 in 3, 1 in 4 games, I do think we could see maybe an improvement in the player. Now, again, look, Manchester United do need to raise funds, and that's quite understandable. And I do think Rasmus Højlund is one of them players that could realistically generate some funds to reinvest into the squad. Now, you're going to say, how much could we realistically get for him? Could you get 30 million for him? I think given his age, given his profile, given maybe the how well he done in Italy, and again, Italy seems to be the place that a lot of the interest is coming from. I can understand why Manchester United are going to try and move him on. And if we're looking to have a rebuild of this squad to the extent that we know is required, then you probably do have to cut ties with the likes of Rasmus Højlund, with the likes of Luke Shaw, with the likes of, you could even go as far as Harry Maguire, even though, he's played so well for us. These types of players eventually are going to be moved on, and you've got to, I suppose, get the timing right in terms of time left on his contract, type of money you could generate given the age profile, given maybe the season that they've had in terms of performance levels. So is it the right time to move Rasmus Højlund on? I think there's probably arguments for both. And if you could get 30 million for Rasmus Højlund this summer, then yes, I would move him on. Absolutely, I would. And you could reinvest that maybe into a striker of a similar profile to him, a similar age, for a similar price, that can come in and maybe be the backup, and that's happy to be the backup option for a year or two and progress and slowly but surely build their way up through the ranks. But look, outgoings more than anything else are vital this summer. They really, really are. We know that United need sales. We need to generate revenue. We do know that the Mbeumo deal, and we'll talk about Mbeumo in a moment, but Mbeumo and Cunha, they are deals that United can do without having to sell players. If we now go for a striker, if we go for maybe another centre-back, maybe a number 6, maybe a new goalkeeper, these are all positions that need to be improved after sales are made. United need to generate revenue. Now, of course, there's the option there, if Diogo Costa became available tomorrow, United could go, right, well, let's go and buy him, but we've got to sell players after we buy him. You need to balance the books. And I think the 1st of July will tell an awful lot. I think, isn't the 1st of July the start of the new financial year for clubs? I could be wrong in that. Now, people can correct me in the comments. But I think if we were talking about the 1st of July, if it's a new financial year, all of a sudden you might see the dominoes fall and a lot of deals getting done relatively fast. And maybe that's why the Mbeumo deal has dragged on maybe till next week as well. But yeah, Rasmus Højlund, guys, according to these reports, is moving on a permanent basis if a suitor can be found. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Would you like to see him stay as a backup striker, or do you think it's time to move him on? And finally, guys, we've got an update on Bryan Mbeumo. Fabrizio Romano has been speaking about the move to Manchester United and when it could possibly get done. Fabrizio Romano said yesterday on YouTube that Manchester United hope to get a deal done within the next week. At the moment, there is still some work to do on the structure of the deal, structure of the add-ons, when to activate, to pay these add-ons, and so on and so forth. There are details of the total package and structure to be clarified for Mbeumo to go to Manchester United. The club remains optimistic. Conversations will continue over the next days and over the weekend with Manchester United and Brentford. I think we've got to the stage now where I think the fee has been agreed for Mbeumo. It's going to be the 62.5 million, I think, maybe 60, moving up to 65 with add-ons, and very, very similar to the Cunha deal. And when we're talking about the structure of the deal, I think we're talking about, can United get installments over a couple of years? And again, we remember with Cunha that Manchester United, and why, maybe, even though that was done relatively fast, why it dragged on for an extra few days was that Manchester United wanted to pay over 5 installments, a 5-year plan, but Wolves said no, we want it over 2 years, and that was kind of what was holding up the Cunha deal. It looks like it's similar, and this is very common when it comes to deals like this. And again, I'm seeing an awful lot of maybe discontent from Manchester United fans about why we're not getting more deals done. But I mean, you've got to realise we're not even in July yet, and we've pretty much got 2 signings in, and 2 very good ones, and I think we can move relatively fast for a striker after that as well. I think the sales will come. I said it at the start of the transfer window. I thought an awful lot of sales are going to drag on into the latter stages of the transfer window. Marcus Rashford only wants to go to Barcelona. That's going to drag on. Anthony to Real Betis, they're pretty much, cap in hand to, I'd say, every person in the city looking for money to raise funds to get the Anthony deal done. Jadon Sancho won't lower his wages. These deals are going to drag on. They really, really are. And I do eventually think they will get done. Whether it's, I think we're probably going to see 1 or 2 loan deals as well, which is never good because you want money in. But if we see loan deals, we've got to have the obligation to buy, and not a £5 million return fee like Chelsea had for Jadon Sancho. But Bryan Mbeumo to Manchester United, guys, it looks like the figures have been pretty much worked out. The add-ons, whether it be, performance-based add-ons, if he reaches a certain amount of appearances, these are all things that happen on most deals. But look, from what I've read and from what I've seen, I think Bryan Mbeumo will be there, and he will be in, hopefully, for pre-season training on the 7th of July, which is when Manchester United are back. And look, if he's not, If he's not in that first week, let's get him in for the tour to America. As long as he's on that plane going to America, along with Cunha, it would be fantastic to have a striker on board as well. But if it is going to be Gyokeres to come in as our striker, he's played in Ruben Amorim's system before, and how much pre-season is he going to require? Obviously, he needs to get fit and he will be doing his own work, of course he will, but how much of the system does he need to take on board when he's played under Amorim before? So these are all questions that need to be asked and answered. But I think Bryan Mbeumo coming in, 100%, I want to see him coming in before we go on pre-season tour. But look, I don't expect it to be much longer, to be quite honest with you. When you're hearing from Fabrizio Romano saying the same thing, that it's going to be done, I reckon we could get a here we go before the end of the week, over the weekend at some stage, and if not early next week, and happy days. And like we said, and Mbeumo and Cunha coming in and then 2 number 10s, what it also does is it frees up Bruno to drop back into the 6. It also frees Ahmad to go back into the right wing position, where a right wing back position, where I think he's going to play an awful lot next season. So not only are we getting 2 signings, we're also freeing up 2 players to fill 2 other positions within the squad that need to be reinforced. So I think that's why United have gone heavy on the number 10s so quickly in the transfer window. And then, of course, we can just do the straight swaps striker number 9. But guys, look, we will be back tonight at 9 o'clock to talk about all of these in depth and any other news that's breaking between now and then. So make sure you are joining us at 9 p.m. on YouTube Live. Do go follow us over on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok as well. We do have any breaking news updated there on a regular basis, so make sure you're following. All the links are in the description. Smash a like on the video, guys. Subscribe if you're new. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tonight. Take it easy.